Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome back to another developer Q&A for Eve Echoes, and this week we actually got it on time, believe it or not. We've got 5 questions this week posed by you, the community. The developers will then respond to these and I'll give my thoughts and opinions about the questions and the answers. Before I do so though, I just want to address something that some people have mentioned in my comments recently about me being a little bit sardonic in some of the responses. Quite frankly, I don't care anymore. As I've said before, I'm attacking the question, not the person asking it. I know some of the people who've asked these questions, and I've sat there and said to them after, look, I respect you as a person, but what the hell was that question? The question is the problem, not the person behind it. You need to understand that to understand me. I'm not here to attack players, I'm here to support the community, but I'm here to support the game at large, which quite frankly feels like it's under attack from, 80% developers and 20% of the player base as well. It kind of feels like there's a lot right now that Eve Echoes could have going for it if it weren't for the fact that the developers were just so absolutely focused on one thing and one thing only, squeezing your money out of your wallet as tightly as possible, and if a certain large group of the player base weren't so adamant to request for more of that. Like, do you want a game? Or do you just want a way to spend money? Because if you just want a way to spend money, then head down below and open up my PayPal, alright? Like, if you have that much money to burn, toss some my way, I'd love that. Send me off to FanFest, be amazing. Anyway, this week's developer Q&A for the 27th of June through to the 3rd of July. Question number 1 then, require fuel consumption for cloaking devices to limit infinite cloaking for camera use. Yeah, this is genuinely a good suggestion. I've been against this in the past until they did the whole thing recently of adding in the ability to refuel at a station and it just be consumed into your ship. Ever since then, I've said yes, this would be fantastic. Because ultimately, it kind of, the ability to just park a cloaked ship whilst streaming your screen in a system, no one can catch you, no one can do a thing about it, there is zero counterplay, but there is a lot of free information you can get from that. In EVE Online, there is what's called cloak destabilization, and it's a 15-minute timer. When you cloak up, a 15-minute timer starts. At the end of that 15-minute timer, there is now a special module, like a station thing, in nullsec that you can put in sovereign space that will basically pulse and decloak anyone who's outside of that timer. Great way to get rid of anyone who is sitting on a cloaking timer and just trying to watch you. It actually has to be counterplayed, which is, the entire point of everything related to balance, right? There should be a counter to everything, because if you can have something that is completely uncounterable, what's the point in literally anything else? So, yes, there should be a way to do this, and the response here from Paulin is slightly concerning. Thank you for your feedback. We'll provide corporations with some anti-cloaking measures to limit the excessive use of this feature. I don't see that being the decloak timer. I wish that was the decloak timer with the structure that can pulse and get rid of that. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be just something like you can just pulse and it's gone in general, which is a much more powerful version and kind of negates the use of cloak. Genuinely, just adding fuel to cloaks is the simplest and fairest way to do this. I'm confused why the developers are finally, after years of going, no, we're not going to do anything, are finally going, yeah, we'll do something, but we're going to completely flip the scales. Rather than do the simple and easy fix, we're going to do something that is far more dramatic and will probably go the other direction. I don't know, let me know your thoughts on that one. Maybe I'm being, just unfair to the devs on that, but I have zero faith in their response being a measured one, because we look at how they've dealt with things like drones and that in the past, how they dealt with missiles. When missiles were the meta and everyone was flying Caracals and Caracal Navy issues, how did they do it? They completely nerfed missiles into the dust. I kind of see that being the thing, and as someone who flies cloaks as kind of my main thing, that's concerning in this case. Same as people have mentioned like a torpedo destroyer that could pulse a special effect that would decloak people at gate camps. That's a terrible idea. The entire point of a covert ops cloaking device is to help you get through gate camps, and if someone can just pulse it and boom, you're gone, well, that completely negates the cloak, once again without any form of counter. Bad idea. All you need to do is, put the fuel consumption on cloaking devices, problem solved. But no, that's too easy for NetEase. It's probably going to be some huge structure that costs trillions of ISK and is just a one-off mineral and ISK sink, as always, because that's what NetEase do. Anyway, let's move on then. Question number 2. Hello, are you planning to do something with high volume of gas in the game? We've only a few ships where we can use it. What about some formula for craft fuel from it, or something, more things, or reduced gas cap on belts? Thank you for your question, says Paulin. We do have plans to add fullerene consumption in the new ship or modules manufacturing. Basically, same old with NetEase. When there's a problem, throw more stuff into the game and hope that fixes it. It doesn't. Things need rebalancing. Things need actually changing it. Because yeah, you're still going to end up with all of this gas. People are going to build the stuff that needs the gas, and then all the remaining gas just grows and sticks around. Gas harvesting was literally the laziest bullcrap that they could have added to the game. Instead of requiring new ships and new modules and being something interesting, it's essentially just a different coloured asteroid that appears in every belt and uses the exact same equipment, the exact same gameplay. It is boring as hell. I don't know how that one got past the team, because that's just ridiculous. Hey, we could add this really cool, exciting new gameplay that's featured in EVE Online and is a very popular feature among a lot of different pilots due to its versatile way of being handled compared to standard ore and rock mining, and then NetEase went, yeah, no, we're just going to literally throw it into the game like we're throwing shit against the wall and hoping that something sticks. That's literally what gas hubbing in Echoes is. It makes me so angry. And basically, yeah, the only way they're going to fix it is by throwing yet more stuff at the wall and hoping some of that sticks, because that is their plan. That's all they know how to do. Question number 3. Could you please add a setting to make the in-game chat censor optional? I can't even type my home system name in chat or submit reports of bannable player behaviour. Thank you for your feedback, says Paulin, but unfortunately due to potential legal risks in different countries, we can't make the chat censor optional, which is categorical Class A grade bullshit. 100% they can, of course they can. That's how every other game out there has a chat censor that can be disabled, right? Like, that's not a difficult thing. It's genuinely something that features even in their own games. You can go into Infinite Lagrange, another NetEase game, and turn off their chat filter. So why can't you do it in Echoes? Because it's too much work, they don't give a damn, or because it's complicated. And I know some people are going to go down the usual racist bullshit route of, hey, it's because they're Chinese and the Chinese Communist Party are bad and evil and blah 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 blah. And yeah, to a certain degree I can agree with that, but you're kind of pigeonholing and generalizing and doing all of that crap as well that I absolutely cannot stand. Basically, there are games in China that do have to have certain words censored. We know this, that is a thing, and that's Chinese law. The devs can't do anything about that. They're quite right, and I'm not going to get into a geopolitical debate about the rights and wrongs of that. It's the Chinese government. They have the right to do whatever they want to do, you know, right? I can't argue with that. However, this is a global game, and so that option should be made available to people who don't want the filter, especially since words like refund are completely censored. NetEase itself is a censored word. It's like, it reminds me of playing CNC Rivals back when EA first added their censor, and you couldn't even say Titan because it had tit in it, and that just automatically censored it, so you couldn't talk about one of the main units in the game. Stupid. Look, I get the want for a filter to keep things family friendly, and I get the legalities of it. But plenty of other games have managed to do it, so why can't you, NetEase? Because you're lazy and there's no money in it. Simple as that. Question number 4 then. Loading station assets takes longer than it should. Have the devs considered adding a text-only option, no icons, that could be selected? This would significantly reduce server load. Fly safe-ish. Oh my god, tell me you're not a programmer without using the phrase tell that you're not a programmer. If you think that the reason that it takes so long to load is because of the icons, oh boy, no. No, if you think that a couple of 200 by 200 pixel PNGs are the reason why it takes so long to load, or even 50 by 50 once you have it lower, that's not the reason, and that's not even close to a reason. It's because you are currently, basically you're pulsing every station in the game to check what is at every single station. Do you have items there? What items do you have? How many of each item do you have? What's the value of that item? Yada, yada, yada. That's why it takes so long. Anyway, what does Paulin say? You can make it load faster by clicking the button next to the search bar in the upper right corner of the station asset screen to switch to thumbnail view. Text is not as straightforward as icon. We would not add a text option in our game, but we will optimize the coding to make it load faster. Thank you for your support. And basically that's a load of crap followed by the actual answer at the very end there. Optimizing the coding. That is the only way that stuff like this gets fixed, and it's due to how NetEase do things. Basically, we had one team working on EVE Echoes prior to launch. Once the game launched, all of the developers developers, all of the coders, all of those people disappeared off to whatever project NetEase headquarters sent them off to, leaving Paulin, Cloud, Exile, Melos, Lancedot, those guys all around to continue developing ideas for the game. And once they have a solid idea, they present it to NetEase HQ, who sit there and go, yeah, that sounds cool. Here's a team of coders to make it happen. Here's some artists, sound designers, yada, 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 all the stuff you need to add it to the game. Obviously, if NetEase say, no, we don't like that, then it doesn't matter that Cloud and Exile think it could be the best thing for the game. If headquarters don't do it, then there's no one to code it. What this means is, essentially, you've got a core game, and then every update since then is just plastered on. It's new stuff added on the top, crowbarred in, shoehorned on. It's like, I don't know, I don't know how to even describe it. I can't think of a good analogy. It's just sticking stuff on the side, which means the game gets bigger, the optimization reduces, everything takes longer to load, because suddenly everything's got to hook into everything else, rather than it all just being one piece of glorious coding that's been reduced. Like, people talk about this when it comes to games like, say, Apex Legends or PUBG. Why do some things take so long? Why are the updates so big? And it's simply because every single skin in the game has to suddenly be added to every single character and sent out to every single player, just in case someone needs that. So you've got all of these assets that currently have to be linked round and round and round again. And rather than having one piece of code, if you understand object-oriented programming, you know that you can create an object and then just have everything else in your code reference that object. When you are doing things like NetEase, the guys who are adding stuff to the game don't necessarily know that those objects already exist within the core code, so they have to recode those into the update, which means every time there's a new update, it has all of that code again. It means you've got the same bits of code that run the same things twice, which pads out the game, pads out the size, slows everything down, because they are unaware that that code already exists and that there are classes and functions they could just call upon, they just don't know that they're there. That's why this is such a problem. Will it ever get solved? I doubt it. It's something that's been complained about a lot. It's something that over multiple years they've been saying, oh, we will optimize the coding, and they just never really have. So when you've been sitting here listening to 2 years of, yeah, we're going to do this, you kind of start to think, yeah, you're probably not. Final question then, question number 5. Will we be seeing new corporation structures that can be deployed by corps regardless of the sovereignty they're deployed in? What? I think adding the assembly arrays may be helpful, where a corp can deploy them in any system, especially since many smaller corps do not have sovereignty. Thank you for your suggestion, but sovereignty gameplay is such a significant part of PvP in our game, we won't be adding such structures in the short term. This actually gets me kind of thinking, am I missing something here? Like, I'm trying to think assembly arrays in EVE Online. Is that something that you can build outside of sovereignty? Because, yeah, sovereignty is kind of a key mechanic. It's one of those things that you set up your sovereignty so that you can build stuff in it. That then allows you to spread your sovereignty wider, and so on and so forth. I think when they talk about assembly arrays, they're talking about POS, aren't they? That's POS, that's the big bubbles and the shields and that were basically redone with the whole upwell structures. And that's... no. That's kind of like a capture layer outpost, but not. Like, if you go into EVE Online, you can eventually find these old, especially in wormholes, very popular in wormholes, people who will go out and essentially find a wormhole they like, that's got a good static. They don't necessarily have a corp, so they set up a safe bookmark, and in that safe bookmark, they create a POS bubble, player-owned citadel, player-owned station, where they, you know, they can not dock out, but they can sit inside it and they're completely safe while they're logged off, etc., etc. And it means that they've got a vantage point to go out of that isn't just a station. Then they added the ability to add stations into wormholes, and that kind of replaced the POS in its functionality. The idea is that you can be out and about in space, roaming through dangerous areas of space, and then decide you want to log off, so you just kind of set up a POS and boom, you're done. Or so on and so forth. The thing is, when it comes down to it, this idea that, you know, smaller corps don't have sovereignty, that's kind of by design. Smaller corps don't need sovereignty. In EVE Online, the smaller corps stick to what is referred to as pirate nullsec. Places like Venal or Fountain, or is it Fountain? Is it Fountain with Serpentis? Or Stain, or Curse, these ones that are owned by the Angel Cartel, Guristas Pirates and things like that, rather than owned by players, like, say, Scalding Pass or Innsmother, or, you know, these kind of places where players can own their own sovereignty. Now, sovereignty is designed to be an alliance-level gameplay. You need a decent-sized corporation, and that corporation needs to be part of an alliance, and so they work together to build this big thing. It's about building the bigger thing. And if you want to have sovereignty, and you want to have the benefits of sovereignty, then you need to be part of an alliance. And if you don't want to be part of an alliance, you have to accept that that means you can't have the benefits of being in one. Just like the UK needs to accept that you can't be outside of the EU and still tell France what to do. Right? So basically it comes down to simply that. When it comes down to looking at alliance sovereignty, you're never going to get that in a small corp. What we should have is more functional nullsec for non-sovereignty players. Yes, I know that you are perhaps sitting there in a small corp where you're a miner and thinking, God, I wish we could have all those boosters and towers that all the sovereignty guys get. The point is, they have to spend a lot to make that happen, and it's supposed to be a risk that then other players can come in and destroy it. Trouble is, it's not really a thing, in Echoes, because destruction. But yeah, so for smaller corps, the idea is you'd base out of a nullsec NPC station, and maybe, some of the smaller things like a Raitaru or an Astrohus, or, just some kind of player-owned station, but you don't have sovereignty. You deal with the mechanics of the systems around you, like running missions for the pirate factions and having these additional layers of content that don't exist so much in deeper sovereign nullsec. That's kind of the point that we're getting at there. The problem isn't that, smaller corps can't do the same things as alliances can. It's the fact that smaller corps don't have their own unique little niche in EVE Echoes that allows them to exist in a fun and interesting way, because the devs don't care. And I know that you're going to sit there and say, oh, but Benzie, you're comparing a 20-year-old PC game to a 3-year-old mobile game. Yeah, but I could also compare what EVE Online was like at 3 years compared to what EVE Echoes is like, and EVE Online wasn't trying to strip your wallet and was actively adding content to make the game more interesting and more expansive. Echoes isn't. And I'm sorry, adding a Sciency or supercarriers is not adding the game, making the game more interesting or expansive. It's just pushing the end out further so that new players have further to go and the existing players keep spending, because sunken cost fallacy is a real thing. Anyway, folks, that's enough negativity from me this week. Came into this one completely, unaware of what the questions were going to be like. Once again, I'm disappointed. Some good questions here with things like what should we do about the volume of gas in the game? What should we do about cloaking devices? There's really some cool ideas that could be done with these, but NetEase just seem intent to not do anything with them. Things like, we can't do the chat sensor because legal reasons around the world. No, it's legal reasons in China is your only concern. Everyone else, there are ways to do this. There are ways to do it. Other developers have made it work, so why can't NetEase, the second largest game developer in China, top 5 in the world, I think NetEase comes under? By finances and stuff, just the argument they don't have resources to do stuff, they don't know how to do stuff, is just such crap, and I hate it. Things like, yes, we need the game optimized, we need better coding and that in it. And that reminds me of Heron Explorer, kind of question he would ask. And yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. The no icons thing doesn't really make a difference. It's optimizing the underlying code that's the problem. And finally, corporation structures. It's not corporation structures that you need, it's actual interesting gameplay that makes your small corp actually viable to run and fun to play as. Anyway, folks, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Otherwise, thanks for listening right the way through to the end. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.